left out in the rain and noticed that it got kind of rusty? That's oxidation. So what is oxidation? Oxidation is a chemical reaction that happens when a substance comes into contact with oxygen from the air. This reaction can change the way things look and sometimes makes them weaker. It's like a little transformation that happens over time. Have you ever seen a metal bike or a tool that's left outside in the rain for a long time? It starts to get reddish-brown spots. This is called rust, and it's a result of oxidation. The metal reacts with oxygen in the air and the water, causing it to rust. Now, think about what happens when you cut an apple and you leave it out for a while. That's right, it turns brown. That's another example of oxidation. The apple's insides react with oxygen in the air, making it turn brown. Have you ever seen an old penny that looks kind of greenish? That is also oxidation. The copper in the penny reacts with the oxygen and sometimes other elements, making it turn green over time. Iron gates or fences can also rust if they're not painted or protected. Just like the bike, the iron reacts with oxygen and water, causing it to rust. Now let's break down how oxidation happens in a way that's easy to understand. We'll use a simple example, a nail getting rusty. First, the nail is exposed to oxygen. Imagine you have a shiny new iron nail. When you leave the nail outside, it's exposed to the air, and the air has an element in it that we call oxygen. Next, water must also be present. So if it rains or if the air is humid, the nail also gets wet. This means that water has been added to the mix. When oxygen and water are available, the chemical reaction begins. So when the iron in the nail comes into contact with oxygen from the air and from the water, a chemical reaction starts. This means that the atoms in the iron begin to change. They react with the oxygen and form a new substance called iron oxide, which we typically call rust. Over time, more and more of the iron reacts with the oxygen and water, and you start to see reddish-brown rust forming on the nail. This reaction continues as long as the nail stays in contact with oxygen and water. The rust continues to form. Eventually, a lot of the nail might be covered in rust, and it can even start to fall apart. Now that we have a clear understanding of how the process of oxidation takes place, let's do some fun activities to see this process. Now remember, oxidation takes time, so we may not see a lot of rust quickly. For our first activity, we're going to be looking at rust. So for this activity, we'll need 2 clean nails or screws, some steel wool, 4 small cups, some vinegar, water, a marker or pen, and I have some tape so that I can label my cups. Now I'm going to start by making labels for my cups. I'm going to label my first cup with water, H2O, and I'm going to do that again. So I'll have 2 water cups. And then I'm going to do 2 cups of vinegar. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my 2 cups that I labeled with H2O, and I'm going to go ahead and put some water in each of those cups. And I'm going to take my vinegar cups, and I'm going to go ahead and fill them with vinegar. All right, now I'm going to divide my 2 cups. So I'm going to have an H2O and a vinegar and an H2O and a vinegar. And I'm going to take my clean screws and I'm going to go ahead and put 1 in water and 1 in vinegar. Next, I'm going to take my steel wool and I'm going to pull it into pieces that are about the same size. And I'm going to put some in the water and I'm going to put some in the vinegar. Now, I'm going to set these aside so that I can watch them for changes. Now, it might take several days before we can see any changes, but what differences do you think you'll notice? So here's the result after a few days. When nails and steel wool are put in vinegar, the acid in the vinegar helps to speed up the rusting process by breaking down the protective layer on the metal. This allows oxygen and water to react with the iron in the nails or screws, forming rust faster than if they were just exposed to air and water alone. For our next activity, we're going to be cleaning some pennies. For this activity, you'll need some dirty coin, vinegar, salts, some bowls, and water. So I'm going to start by taking my bowl and I'm going to mix some salt with some vinegar. Next, I'm going to take out my pennies and I'm going to go ahead and take two that are kind of similar level of dirty and oxidized. And I'm going to put one in my solution and I'm going to leave one out. And I think I'll try it with these two also. I'm just going to put a couple in. Now we want to mix that in and we're going to watch. Do you see anything happening? That's right. The pennies are becoming shiny again because the vinegar and the salts are removing the oxidation. Now, after we've let that set for a while, I'm going to go ahead and get another bowl, and this one I'm going to fill with water. Now, I'm going to take my pennies that have been sitting in my solution, and I'm going to go ahead and rinse them off in the water. Now, I'm going to take them out and dry them off. And you can already see how much shinier this penny is than the one that we didn't put in the solution. Do you see the difference? The clean penny had its oxidation removed, where our other one has not. For our next activity, we're going to demonstrate oxidation using an apple. Now, for this activity, we'll need an apple, a plate or tray, a knife, this is for an adult to use only, some paper towels, and a marker or a pen. To start our experiment, an adult needs to cut the apple into slices. Now, after you've cut all the slices, you're going to arrange them on a plate or a tray. Then you're going to set it aside and you're going to set a timer for a specific duration of time, like 30 minutes or 1 hour. Make sure to observe your apple slices at regular intervals and record your observations. Now, you might want to coat some of your slices with lemon juice before you begin. And then you can compare what happens to the slices that have been coated with lemon juice versus the slices that have not. So I have an apple that I sliced about 30 minutes ago. And as you can see, it's starting to turn brown. So when you cut an apple, it turns brown because of a chemical reaction between an enzyme in the apple and oxygen in the air. This reaction forms a substance called melanin, which gives the apple its brown color. But you can actually slow down this process by using lemon juice or just by keeping the apple cold. For our next activity, we're gonna make an oxidation art project. For this activity, we'll use some white paper or cardstock, watercolor paints, a water cup, some small metal objects. So to start, we're gonna go ahead and have our paper flat on our surface, and then we're gonna go ahead and start arranging metal objects to create any pattern or design that we want. I'm gonna go ahead and take out my paintbrush and get some water on it. And I'm gonna go ahead and use my paint to start making a background around all of my metal. After I've finished painting, if I have a squirt bottle, I can just spray water over each of the metal pieces. Or since I don't have a spray bottle, I can just simply dip some water on top. And I'm gonna even use a little bit of vinegar. Now, all we have to do is wait. And once our artwork is dry, we can go ahead and display it or share it with friends and family. Creating art using the oxidation of metals involves harnessing the natural chemical reactions of metals with their environment to produce visually striking effects. Through careful selection of materials, controlled oxidation techniques, and artistic expression, artists can create captivating artworks that showcase the beauty of metal oxidation. Oxidation is a simple but important process that we can see in our everyday lives. This reaction changes the material, making it rusty. We can see this process in many places, like on old cars, bikes, and even on some food. When we look at a rusty nail or a brown apple, we're seeing oxidation in action. Oxidation happens when the metal reacts with oxygen in the air, causing rust. For apples, when we cut them, they react with oxygen and turn brown. Understanding oxidation helps us see how things change over time and why it's important to take care of the things we use and eat. It's a key part of science that shows how materials interact with air and moisture around us. I hope you had as much fun learning about oxidation today as I did. See you next time!